Hello and welcome back to Election Time News America. Today is Thursday, June 12th, 2025, and today we're going to be looking at the governorships for the 2026 elections, the 2026 midterms. So here we do have ourselves there's quite a bit of a map here, and there's a lot of term limited or retiring candidates here. We have Kansas, Colorado, New Mexico, California, Michigan, Maine, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Arizona, and Tennessee. And there's a lot of things that could come from these results. Election Time News, your one stop for all things elections and politics, from summations to poll reviews and news. Subscribe for more content like this about American, Canadian, and Australian elections. Also, make sure to follow the Substack that is linked below. Remember, there's never a dull moment in politics. Now, into the video here, we have our map 5 to 7, plus whatever the results are from Virginia and New Jersey. I do not have those included in the map. So currently, we do have quite a few surprises, I guess you could say. The main one here is just going to be that there is a Democratic governor in Kansas. And the main Republican surprise is going to be that there are two Republican governors in Vermont and New Hampshire. So those are the current standings as of right now. And as of 2024 was 27-23. Should be 26-22. Don't know how I messed this up. So 26 to 22. I must have missed something here. So, okay, there we go. All right, so actually it is 8 to 4. And so what we're looking at here are these elections. So we're going to start with the safe states. These are going to be states that are essentially basically impossible to beat. That's going to be 95+% chance of victory. So that is essentially, even though we're a year and a half out, we can still say these are going to go one way or the other at this point in time. So first off, we have Maryland, Massachusetts, and then we can look over and say Hawaii as well. That's it for the Democrats. States are generally much more open to electing a different party governor. Next, for the Republicans, we have Idaho, we have Wyoming, South Dakota, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Alabama, Tennessee. So that is a lot for the Republicans. That brings them all the way up to 16. So it is now 16 to 7, with 25 seats that are left. Now, then we actually have likely, which is going to be a majority of them that we're going to be more used to seeing. This is going to be because, again, it's way too far out, and there's a lot of incumbents that are retiring as well. So that is going to be a big toll on a lot of these states. But, for example, in Illinois, that actually, no, now that I think about it, no, that is J.B. Pritzker's seat. He won by 12.5. That's actually going to be a safe seat for the Democrats. But first off, is going to be California. That's going to be an open seat, Gavin Newsom. But there was a poll done not that long ago. I think it was in actually about like December or January, that a good chunk of Californians would be open to electing a Republican as governor. So that's going to definitely open things up. It's too far out to say much of anything at this point in time. Next up, we do have Colorado. Polis is term limited, but it's a very blue state now, so that's going to be in that column. Same thing for New Mexico, essentially the exact same thing. Grisham is, in fact, term limited, but that is going to be a strong performance there to be most expected. Walls is not term limited. There is no term limit in Minnesota. Same thing in Illinois or Wisconsin. None of these three have term limits. So he is likely going to win re-election, especially with that national attention there now, with him having run as vice president on a party ticket. Connecticut and Rhode Island are going to follow suit. They do not have limited candidates. Now, Connecticut was 12, but Rhode Island was 19, but Trump only lost it by 10, so that's relatively concerning, but still, it's just too far out at this point in time. I don't expect there's going to be any strong candidates that are going to come out of the blue. It's Rhode Island. It's really, nominee for governor in 2022. Um, that one's almost a safe state at this point. It's just still way too early. And then we do go on and we have the likely state for the Republicans, which is going to be Vermont, which of course is going to be a relatively bit of a surprise. But Phil Scott is literally the most liked governor in the entire country. He won in 2024 with 73.4% of the vote on the same ticket that Kamala Harris won the state with, I believe that was pretty close to 60% of the vote. So he's very well liked there. So he is basically going to cruise to re-election, even though it is a very, very blue state. It is the most democratic state in the entire country on the presidential level. Then we also have on the likelies, we have South Carolina. It's a very red state. McMaster is term limited, so that's why basically it's gonna be an open seat. So that's gonna lock things down a bit more for the Democrats. It's gonna be a bit more of an uphill battle, but it is still gonna be an open seat, so it's not gonna be safe for the Republicans. Next is gonna be Florida. This one actually isn't going to be even likely, even though Ron DeSantis did win re-election by 19.4%. If you look at the page here, we can see that it's generally part of the Bible Belt, but it still has some chance here. It completely depends on who ends up running. Matt Gaetz expressed interest. If he wins the nomination, then things are going to get very, very close very, very quickly. But if you instead end up having someone like Casey DeSantis, who is Ron DeSantis' wife, then it'll basically end up becoming a likely state pretty quickly. Or if you end up actually with a different strong candidate coming in here, it depends. You don't really have many strong people. You have a Republican change to Democrat. Here they might be able to pull off a win in a Democrat turned Republican state, but it's still just too uncertain at this point in time. So that's why that is not likely. That's instead going to be lean. Texas, on the other hand, is in fact likely. Abbott only won by 11, but that was against Beto O'Rourke, who was a very strong candidate. Charlie Crist was the previous governor of Florida, but again, O'Rourke was a relatively strong candidate there. And the main thing is that Greg Abbott is not term limited. So he'd be the longest serving governor. And so, also would tie with for the fifth longest serving governor in United States history. But potential will be Beto O'Rourke again running for that there. It completely depends on whether or not he runs. But even then, I'm going to put this in as likely just because it's Texas. It hasn't been blue at any point in time recently. So mainly for that reason, it's just not even going to be anywhere close. Florida used to be blue. They have elected ones in the past, so they could go back more easily, I think, than Texas could start electing Democrats. But both of them are going to be pretty close to that cutoff there, which is going to be right around an 80% chance of going red. So Democrats, don't get your hopes up on either of these two big states. They probably broke your heart for the Senate in 2024 anyways. Next, we do have in Georgia. This is essentially a pretty good state, but that's going to be a bit more competitive as it is on the general level. Next up is going to be the lean states, which I already started with Florida. And then next up, we have New Hampshire for the Republicans. Generally, it's a relatively blue state, but not for governor. They have not actually elected a Democratic governor in a long time, but Tom Sherman has publicly expressed interest in running for governor again in 2026, but I believe he lost with he lost here against Chris Sununu by 15.5 points. And then Kelly Ayotte won her first term for 9.3. Not necessarily sure that it would that he would do too well in this matchup, but it is still again too far out. In theory, she could get deseated there. In Alaska, this again comes down to Peltola. Dunleavy won by a long mile that last time, but Walker was a left-leaning independent that split some of the vote, and so was Pierce to split that. So it's a little complicated in Arizona, or wow, Alaska, but they did actually hold on to this one here. So completely depends on who ends up running here. Potential Tom Bigich or Mary Peltola. This would be this would completely come down to who ends up running the Republican nominee too. There's actually stronger Democratic candidates than Republican ones, but it's still Alaska, so it's going to be lean. And it's going to be probably relatively close to about 70% chance of going red, so just worse than 3 and 4 chance there for lean for Democrat. We have New York. Kathy Hochul is a very unpopular governor. She actually did worse than expected, and that was 6.4, which is insane in New York until, of course, Donald Trump only lost it by 12. But this is basically it. And so now we also have Antonio Delgado, the lieutenant governor of New York. The question is whether or not he will actually end up being able to see her in the primaries. And that would actually make things go better for the Democrats, most likely. For the Republicans, they don't have a strong field, though, other than Mike Lawler. If Mike Lawler runs, then it's going to be a toss up. Even if Elise Stefanik runs, she has some name recognition. So even if she runs, then that could relatively easily end up making this a very competitive seat very quickly. Mike Lawler, if he decided to run, could actually probably end up making this a tilt red seat unless Kathy Hochul gets primaried. So things get very, very interesting in New York. It completely depends on a lot of things, a lot of candidates, whether or not they decide to run or whatnot there. While we're also in the Northeast, we can look at Pennsylvania. Very popular governor Josh Shapiro won his first election by 14.8 against relatively weak Republican challenger Doug Mastriano. But now he's going to be up for re-election. He is a very popular incumbent there. Bob Casey Jr. did decline to run, which is good for both of them. Honestly, that would be an unnecessary challenge, but Republican primaries, there's not much here. You have Scott Martin. You have Doug Mastriano, but he said that he will run for lieutenant governor if Garrity ends up winning, and his decision is expected soon. He's the state treasurer, but it completely depends on where these who ends up running where, and so Dave White, who lost to um, candidate for governor, so he would have lost the primaries most likely, I believe. So that would be what happened there. But Shapiro won by a lot. There were quite a few blue counties that aren't usually blue, such as Cumberland and Beaver counties. There you have Cumberland and Beaver counties. Those are usually red. Even Dauphin, you have Northampton, even Luzerne County. Those were all of those that I said were red for Trump in 2024. So he does very, very well. Dave Sunday did decline to run. He's the attorney general of the state, so that's a potential downfall for the Republicans. But Muser has the nomination, or sorry, the endorsement of Donald Trump, and he also is represented from the 9th Congressional District, which is that one right there, right next to the urban regions. These two flipped red in 2024, which I'll be, of course, going over in tomorrow's video of all of the House. So he's very well liked. There's not that strong of a field against him right now, so I will have that lean blue on the map. We're not going to forget about Maine. Mills is term limited, so she is not going to be able to run again. Looking at the primary field, Angus King III would definitely be a strong candidate there. The Democrats are probably going to be hoping that he wins. Jared Golden has declined, though. He is running for re-election in his House seat, as we also said, for the governorship, or sorry, for the senatorship there. Shenna Bellows, Secretary of State. And then we also have the former director of the governor or the Office of Policy Innovation there. So president of the Maine Senate as well. So there's quite a few people that are going to be running for this seat. The Probably the strongest would definitely be Angus King III. They also have name recognition. His son, his father, I believe this is the exact same. Yes, um, father got reelected to the Senate in Maine by quite a bit in this past November. Then looking at the Republican candidates, there's not many strong candidates at all. There could be a few from the back that could end up joining soon, but there's not much right now, so that's going to be lean blue. So next we have Ohio. This is going to be a lean red state. Mike DeWine is term limited, but he won by a landslide in 2022. But declared Vivek Ramaswamy, most likely he is going to end up winning. But the real thing is Sherrod Brown and Tim Ryan are potentially running here. So this is going to get very, very close. As of right now, you can't really say what's going to happen. It completely depends on who ends up deciding to run in this. Most likely the best case for the Democrats would be Tim Ryan running for governor, Sherrod Brown running for Senate. But it definitely is going to come down to whether or not Tim Ryan and or Sherrod Brown run for this seat, how it ends up going. If either of them run, it's going to become tilt or toss-up. Next up is Michigan. This one's interesting. Whitmer is term limited, so she obviously cannot run again. But Mike Duggan is running as an independent, and that is going to be the mayor of Detroit. Then also in here you have Jocelyn Benson, Secretary of State. You have Andy Levin also could be on there. Buttigieg declined. Gary Peters declined. It would have been funny if Gary Peters had run for governor and Whitmer had run for Senate. That would have been kind of funny if they'd switched. But Gilchrist, lieutenant governor, has also announced he's going to run. But over here you have John James. So if he ends up winning the primary, which is relatively likely, things could end up running very poorly for quite a few of them. If you look at the polling here, Benson actually does beat James and Duggan, but there's, again, quite a few undecideds. Benson beats Cox and Duggan, but John James beats Swenson and Gilchrist. So it completely comes down to who ends up going where with what. And so at this point, Duggan could end up becoming a spoiler candidate. It's completely up to how things end up rolling down from here. But as of right now, it's a blue tilting state at heart. So I'm going to have it blue tilting. Also, because there's a lot of Gretchen Whitmer's staff on there right now as well. A not as popular, but still probably relatively strong governor that's up for re-election is Tony Evers in Wisconsin. He'd be running for his third term. There are no term limits in Wisconsin. He has not he's not announced whether he will do this or not, but Zachary Roper is challenging him. If he does decide to run, most likely he will end up losing, though. There's not much that's going to happen there, and there's no real strong Republicans here, except if Eric Hovde runs, because he's the one that challenged Tammy Baldwin for the Senate this past year as well. So that's going to be the real question here, is if Hovde ends up winning, then things are going to end up getting a bit closer, as he did end up doing pretty well, but as of right now, it's going to be tilt blue, just barely on the edge of lean. It's probably going to be right around a 65% chance of going blue. But also remember that the last time that a candidate ran for their third term was in fact 2018, and Evers beat Walker that year. So that was the loss here, and also it was very, very close. It was 1.1%, but still they did end up flipping that seat. So it does really end up mattering on whether or not that was just 2018 energy, or if it was not wanting a 3-term governor. And then moving on towards Oregon, this is going to be lean for the Democrats. Generally, they really don't go that strong. Kotek won by 3.4. Eligible to run for a second full term, but there's nobody really here at all in the Republican field. There's also not really anyone in the Democratic field either. There's no real strong names. So here we're just going off of just the basic demographics. It's probably going to go blue. Next up is Kansas. This is going to be likely red. I did miss this one, but I wanted to point this one out because, again, this is the one that Kelly is in. So actually, right now, I'm actually going to just barely lean. This is going to be right below 80% chance. Basically, a 4 and 5 chance the Republicans are going to win this seat, but just below it, so it's going to be lean. This is just because Laura Kelly is term limited, and so we do have then, depends completely on who ends up running for this. We have Minority Leader of the Kansas Senate, former Kansas Secretary of Transportation, Lieutenant Governor of Kansas, state, and 2 state senators. Who ends up winning and how well they do, it completely varies, but it's a strong Republican state, so if there's a strong Republican candidate, that's basically going to be it. Former Governor of Kansas is running. We have Charlotte O'Hara, Johnson County Commissioner, Kansas Secretary of State. So all of those are most likely going to end up helping the Republicans. Most likely they're going to flip this one. This is the most guaranteeable flip of the entire year, but it's not 100% guaranteed. Basically, literally nothing is until the votes start coming in. Reynolds is term limited in Iowa, and so actually she declined to run because she was the only governor that was underwater with her approval rating. So now you end up with Rob Sand, the auditor of state. He's the only, I believe, the only Democrat that managed to win statewide for any office in Iowa for the past like decade and a half. But then you basically just have everyone else here. There's no polling here yet at all, but it depends completely on who ends up running on the Republican side. The Attorney General, I think literally someone, if Grassley doesn't run. So that's Miller Meeks decided to not run. She just barely ran there. Anyway, Kim Reynolds declined. So we have U.S. representatives and state representatives that are all getting into the field. Grandson of Chuck Grassley here publicly expressed interest. So that completely hinges on how things end up going there, but it is still a very red state, which means most likely it will be red for right now. And then finally, we do have Nevada. So Nevada is going to be tilt red. Joe Lombardo is a very popular incumbent. He defeated incumbent Sisolak in 2022, and he is not term limited. I believe, yes, he is running for re-election for a full second term, and so Sisolak has expressed interest, but those never end up doing well. Nevada Attorney General, this may end up getting things pretty close. I hope for the Democrats that Steve Sisolak doesn't end up winning or even going in, but of course you'd hope then for the Republicans that he does, because those rematches never end up going well for the person that lost the first time. And I know Aaron Ford, being the Attorney General, lost by 19 in one hypothetical poll. So that is relatively poor performance there, but that is going to be Tilt R, relatively popular incumbent, even though it's in a swing state. It is still moving towards the right as a state as well. Next, we get to Arizona, and we do have a state where there is the incumbent Katie Hobbs. She's not stated whether or not she will run. This will be the first gubernatorial election in Arizona in which candidates will be required to nominate a running mate for the newly established position of lieutenant governor. This is going to be a difficult one because Donald Trump won the state by 5.5 points. Katie Hobbs publicly expressed interest. Nobody's actually done that there yet. For the Republicans, Andy Biggs has gone in, and so has Karen Taylor Robson, candidate for governor in 2022. Siskamani, Carrie Lake has declined, which is probably good. Charlie Kirk has declined as well. And so Andy Biggs is most likely going to win that one. The 5th congressional district is the small one right there on the southeastern side of Phoenix. That's going to be this one right there, and there's Andy Biggs. So that's relatively going to be a strong performance there, but she is the incumbent, so I'm going to leave this one as toss-up. If I had to pick a side, I would say blue because of incumbency, but it is very, very close. She's not too popular. The Republicans have surged in the state again. So with all of that, I'd say right now it is a pure toss-up for going into the 2026 cycle. And then the same thing in Georgia. Brian Kemp is term limited, and so now this left trending state is going to have to pick who on earth. So Chris Carr is the current attorney general. MTG expressed interest. Kelly Loeffler expressed interest, but she lost re-election to U.S. Senate against Raphael Warnock, I believe, back in, I don't remember when. I think that would have been 2018. No, they both flipped in 2020. Stacey Abrams expressed interest. She lost both times, so that would be a great chance for the Republicans to hold on to the seat. But declared, probably the best one would be Keisha Bottoms, because former mayor of Atlanta, and Atlanta turnout is exactly what the Democrats are going to want. But it completely depends on how people end up doing. If there's any, hypothetical polling over the future. But as of right now, because again, also there's going to be a blue environment. So if I had to pick both of these, I would say are likely to stay blue, which literally means that there would be no flips for the governorships either, except for Kansas and Georgia, which are going to be the two expected flips here on this map. But both of those are to be expected. So the only flip is going to be Kansas as of right now. Thank you all so much for watching today's video on the governorship update for 2026. Make sure to subscribe below if you are not already subscribed. Subscribe to the Substack as well. I'll be making posts on that more regularly. And thank you all for watching. Have a fantastic rest of your day.